What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we are speaking the language of bromance. And oh, Shawn, how I missed your face.
Oh, Richard.
Your beautiful, beautiful face.
We are just days away from Christmas time, right? 5 days from when this drops.
Oh, man.
The fat man's going to be coming down the chimney.
Did you get all your shopping done?
Tiffany actually does a great job of taking care of all that. Although
my wife does too.
I bought my son a couple things, and I can't find one of them.
Whoops.
Yeah, so it was like a $20 thing, so I may end up just buying him another one, but I don't know yet. Because that's something he really asked for. It's something I knew he'd be excited for. But yeah, did you get all your Christmas shopping done? Because we were going to record last night. Well, this is kind of a time-lapse thing, so but we were going to record.
I did. I'm done.
Nice. Isn't that a good feeling?
It's so good.
Although,
like I said, like 100%, this is my wife's doing.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't like do. Like,
I'm 100. Like honestly, like I feel like the only reason I'm there is for like moral support because she like goes between her phone and the computer, and she's like, okay, I'll get this, and then she's got like a little notepad in front of her, and she's like crossing stuff off, and she's going between like her phone and the computer, and I'm just sitting there.
And that's what she's doing. She's confirming with Santa the things that got sent, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. Yeah. And
then I sit there and I give a thumbs up, and I'm like, good job. I was like, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, Tiffany will end up buying most of the stuff. She'll be like, hey, what about this? What about this? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I come over like 2 days later, be like, hey, I bought 6 more things. I'm horrible. That's why I don't think she lets me go shopping like this time of year. Like she's like, hey, go pick this up at Walmart. And I'll walk through and be like, you know what? Let's get 6 of these.
I did do that today. There was one thing I had to get at Walmart, but I went and picked it up.
Nice. Do you and Amanda do gifts? Are you big gift givers between each other? Okay.
No.
I was gonna say,
although we do not. However, her birthday is very, very close to Christmas, and so I always make it a point to get her something, and then that's her birthday present. But no, we don't give each other gifts on Christmas. We never really have. We didn't before because we were poor.
We would do. Tiffany and I were always bad about because if we got each other something, we'd get it so far ahead of time that we'd end up just giving it to each other. So it's like December 3rd, and it's like, Merry Christmas, you want your present? Well, don't open this one yet. All right, it's the 5th. Open this one.
Yeah, she does do that. She is really bad about that.
Yeah. Usually
she buys things for people, and then she's like, well, they could have it now.
Yeah. Like why wait
now? Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of gift giving between each other, but we've kind of gotten the point where we get stuff for ourselves like throughout the year. It's kind of like we'll just call that good.
Yeah. That's exactly how I am.
But Richard, so in getting prepared for this jolly season, I thought, I had some friends who went to the movie theaters here in town because everything's still kind of a little iffy, touch and go. Mm-hmm. And they said they went and there was like 6 people in the theaters counting them.
Wow.
So I thought I wanted to go out.
I'm surprised they actually had the theaters like open. Like the way all the theaters around my area are doing it is like, hey, if you want the theater, you can rent it, but like you've got to pay. I think it's like $100 or $120, but you can have like up to 20, 25 people in here.
When he told me that, he said it's basically everything's normal except they tell you to sit apart and they limit the number of people that can go in. Uh-huh. So I was like, well, you know what? I haven't been to a movie since Birds of Prey in January. I want to
wash
go.
That out of my mouth.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go see the jolliest movie coming out. And when I went to the theater, there was 3 other people in there besides me.
Wow.
And so I sat right next to them because I'm like, hey.
And then I shook their hands right after I licked my palms.
And then I just dove into their popcorn. It was awkward when I took my mask off and like tossed it to the old dad. Like, hey, can you hold this for me?
Shawn is his own super spreader event.
No, we sat like we were definitely far enough apart, and I felt comfortable. Like I literally walked by nobody going in. There's nobody there. There's more people probably working than that were at the theater.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So I went and sat, and I'm like, I got to see the jolliest movie. And the man starring in this movie made a Jesus movie, Richard. So I knew that he had to be all about Christmas and Christianity.
I don't know. I saw a video of him talking to some police officers. He did not seem very jolly in that video.
Not to bury the lead, I saw, Richard, the new movie starring Mel Gibson called Fatman. And that's where Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus. But speaking back to that event that happened in like 2008.
Yeah.
I don't know how he survived that.
Right?
Like he pretty much went like lockdown for like 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
And then he came out in some
and you gotta think of like the high he was on, because like he'd made that fucking Passion of the Christ movie and everybody loved him, and he was like, fucking, he was, God's chosen son on earth to make fucking movies. And oh, how the mighty fell.
Yeah, apparently he had some things to say about the Jewish faith, and
he had some things.
Was it there's a recording of, it was either his
some
wife
very, very
or
terrible
daughter?
Things.
Was it his wife? Do you remember, was it his wife or his
sugar
daughter?
tits? Like, it's oof.
Yeah, there's a sports radio station I listen to called 670 The Score, and they always do like quote of the year. And whatever he's like basically like yelling over the phone, like I don't remember if it was his wife or his daughter, like basically saying like he's going to come and like just be just like a dick to him essentially. And he's like screaming on the phone in this voicemail, and they're like, "Yep, that's quote of the year." But yeah, he went like into hibernation for like 10 years, and then he came back out with it was that show with Marky Mark and who's the cowbell guy? I always forget his name. He's an old school and
Will Ferrell.
There was a movie called like Dads or something.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Because that was like this first like back like big screen movie. Everybody's like, oh yeah, that guy. And he was funny, I think, so people kind of like gave him a pass. I feel like that's kind of where he's at now. Like Fatman isn't even if like things were normal, isn't a blockbuster movie.
I'm going to tell you how, like, because I saw the trailer for this movie, and halfway through it, I watched this movie, or I was watching this trailer going, who made this? Like, is this a parody, like, right? This is a satire. This is like an SNL. It's like an SNL sketch. That's the total impression that I got from watching this. I was like, this is an SNL sketch that they made about Mel Gibson playing Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's like the new Die Hard commercial that they have out, because people were saying that Bruce Willis was going to be in a brand new Die Hard movie, and it ended up being a commercial for the Die Hard car battery.
Yeah.
And that's what this feels like. It's like coming out of retirement is Mel Gibson. You knew him from Lethal Weapon. Yeah. Now the Lethal Weapon is a sleigh bell. This winter's classic, Fatman. Now, Richard, I feel like this movie, so going into it, like I was just going to watch it at home. But when I found out like the theaters, nobody was there, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go during the afternoon. Obviously scan the area, like if it felt like there's nobody there, like it was, I'll feel fine. I feel safe going in.
Yeah.
I want to go and watch this because I know my wife's not going to watch it. And I wouldn't say that I would watch this again in a theater, but if like this time of year came around and like you have some adults around and it's just kind of like you're hanging out, it's kind of a lull. It's like, you know what? Let's watch Die Hard first, and then let's put Fatman on and watch it.
Oh my god!
Because like, what this movie, what it does, I
don't know if I would. I like at this point, I don't know if I would want to see it. I don't know. I don't know. It's just like it just seems so. I feel like there's only one way you can do that movie, and you have to do it like basically you have to do it 100% like unapologetically straight. That's the only way that movie's gonna.
Oh
work.
yeah, this is a rated R. Like
if you like do that, like like turn and wink to the fucking camera, like that kind of thing. We're we know this is stupid, but hey. Like if there's any of that, then the whole fucking thing crumbles.
There's maybe one scene, and it's in the trailer, where the kid comes out that got the coal, and he's like, "You've made your last mistake, fat man."
Oh my God.
That's the only part that kind of feels that way. Because this movie is like your dark take on the Santa Claus mythos that you didn't know you wanted. And I was going to say, like, this is a movie
I'm pretty sure I didn't want it.
This is a movie I think you could play in the background and watch. It's like a game day movie that we'd play. Uh-huh. And I guarantee there's probably like 4 or 5 different points where people would pay attention for 5 to 10 minutes and get enough out of it. So the movie opens up. You've got this kid who's a spoiled rich kid. His dad can't make it back, right? And he's just a complete a-hole.
Fuck this kid. Yeah. See, I already hate him.
He's won
Eat the rich. Eat the rich.
He's won like the science fair like 4 years in a row, but this year, Richard, he loses.
Oh.
So what he does is he hires an assassin to kidnap the girl that won. Yeah, it goes from like 0 to 50.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we just, fucking pump the brakes there for a second.
Yeah, and you think like, oh my gosh, like he's going to hire this assassin to kill this girl, but he basically just scares the girl into giving back the prize, saying she cheated so that he could win it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, great, right?
Tale as old as time.
So that's how the relationship between this assassin and this kid get built. And the kid is stealing money from his grandma to pay for this because his grandma, I guess, is like kind of on her deathbed, but is super like rich. Like I think she's the one that's got the money in the family kind of thing. Like she runs the business. And so that's kind of our I guess it's kind of like maybe not really the B plot. That's kind of the start of the A plot with this.
Okay.
So this kid sends a letter to Santa, with all the stuff that he wants, but he's a spoiled rich kid, right? Now, let's cut to Kris Kringle. So you've got Santa Claus living in North Peak, Alaska. And honestly, Mel Gibson does a really good job at being like a dark, gruffy Santa Claus.
He seems like he reminds me a lot of Harrison Ford in the sense that Harrison Ford seems to me to be like the quintessential curmudgeon.
Yeah, I get that.
Like just that like grouchy old man.
Yeah. Well, that's
that you see at like the supermarket, and like you hold your kid a little closer when you're around him because you don't want the kid to like accidentally piss him off by grabbing the wrong fucking toothpaste or something.
Yeah, he plays it that way a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like it fits well in like the time frame that we are, I think, in the sense that like he's Santa Claus, but you think of like how people probably like you think 20, 30 years ago, people were like, oh, like you really had to be good for Santa Claus, right? And I think a lot of people kind of got over that, like with kids. Like I don't think we're probably going to tell our kid much like, oh my gosh, you better be good or Santa's going to take away your gifts, in June. And so he's kind of got to this point where, and what I loved the most about this movie, I think, is the mythos around Santa Claus. Because when you first see him, the whole idea that was in my head is like, well, is this actually the like Santa?
Is this
Santa?
really? Is this really Santa, or is this like some bullshit that fucking like? Is this just some like fucking bullshit crazy dude that thinks he's Santa?
Yeah, it's a guy named Kris Kringle that maybe he delivers packages to kids in the town.
Old fucking man. Rah, rah, rah.
I used to be Santa Claus, but they really like dribble
and
in.
Then the Jews came. Oh God, no,
no, Mel, stop, cut. I made Passion of the Christ. It's like we know, Mel.
We know.
And now you're here.
And yeah, how'd that work out? Well, it was fine till Sugar Tits pulled me. God damn it, Mel.
Can we use that footage? Sure. Why not? We'll dub it later.
I bet we'll win an Oscar.
Nobody else can right now. But yeah, so you see him in this North Pole place, and he's going and getting like letters and stuff. So they really kind of dribble in like he's getting all these letters from all these kids. There's a really cool bar scene where
how are the letters getting to him? Are they like falling down his chimney or?
Oh, I'll get to that. So he would he'd go into town, this North Peak, Alaska, and he had a P.O. box that he would go to. And the whole thing that was really weird to start out with is the very first time we see him go there, he gets a bunch of these letters from kids too. Like he basically has to drive around back and the post office gives them to him. But he gets this like check from the U.S. government. And so like I see that he's like worried that it's not going to be enough money. And him and Mrs. Claus talk about like, you know, how they're not going to get enough money. They didn't get subsidized enough.
Oh, there is a Mrs. Claus?
There is a Mrs. Claus.
Okay. Like I don't think you saw Mrs. Claus at all in the trailer.
No, her name's Ruth too, which I don't know.
Is Mrs. Claus is it Ruth Kringle? Is that her name?
That's her name in the movie, yeah. I don't know if that's
I mean like mythos. Is that her name in like the
mythos?
The great story of Santa in the Santa-verse?
I don't think so. Like just looking up Ruth Kringle real quick, nothing pops up like, Mrs. Claus.
Okay.
So he goes there and like Santa, like on his way to town too, I guess I should have backed up. He's hearing all these stories about these kids who are doing like one group of kids dropped a bowling ball on a highway and caused like a 30-car pileup.
Oh, that shit's fucked up. Have you ever heard stories about that? I've heard stories about that where like kids stand on an overpass and they'll drop like fucking big rocks and shit like that.
The first time did you ever see The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin? It was like his.
I think I have, but it was probably a long ass time ago.
It had the dude from the Hobbit movies in it. Not the Hobbit movies, the Lord of the Ring movies.
Elijah Wood?
Yeah, he was in there. And the whole idea is like, this is where Macaulay Culkin's like, oh, I'm going to get dark and I'm going to act in this like kind of dark, not really horror movie, but more like just dark.
Like a thriller.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Macaulay Culkin's basically this shitty kid. It was basically like he would have been a serial killer if he didn't die in the movie. Spoiler alert. But this is like from like 30 years ago.
I was going to say that I think it came out in like the 90s.
Yeah, which I saw when I was like 5 or 8, which I probably shouldn't have seen that movie either. It's like that and Showgirls. Like my mom's like, here, watch these. No! Keep the change, you filthy animal. But he had this like stuffed human type thing, like a fake like mannequin. And he did that. He dropped it over an overpass. So all these cars like saw like this person fall and stop caused it. That's the first time I ever heard of that. But no, I've never heard of it actually happening.
I've heard of it actually happening where like kids like take like big fucking rocks and they get up to an overpass and they drop the rock off the fucking overpass.
Oof. I mean, that you essentially are going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like if it goes through the windshield.
Goes through the windshield or fucking like hits a car and then that car. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't do that at all. Nobody should ever.
So there was that. And they talked about like some kids that burn stuff down. So basically, Kris Kringle, Santa Claus, Fatman, is like, what's my purpose? Like, kids are going to shit right now. Like, they don't believe in me. I'm giving out more coal than I am actually giving out like gifts because like kids just are like, for some reason, their moral compass is gone. Which, I mean, like you said, like crunchling old man, like, I feel like that's kind of.
That's what a curmudgeon would do. Be like, they're all getting fucking cold.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Santa in this case is being played by Nick Nolte. Give him coal. Fuck him. I hate him. Goddamn kids.
I feel like I would say kids probably aren't any better or worse than they were 40 years ago. It's just,
I would agree. I think the difference is that now there's more people to complain about it.
Well, and I think there's probably more sources to actually capture it. Like, I would assume that, you know, my grandpa probably did a lot of things that he probably didn't want to end up on Facebook or the internet.
Yeah, 100%. There's so much. I mean, well, like, I mean, you and I are probably the last generation. You and I are the last generation of kids that grew up without
social media right away. Yeah.
Without social media.
But I think we were probably, because we were the guinea pigs with it. There's a lot of people putting that stuff out in college.
Well, I mean, like,
I'm just saying, like, you'd be like, oh, here's a picture of me getting drunk, and your job looks at it like,
Well, I was going to say, like, I'm like 3 or 4 years older than you. So, like, Facebook came around and, like, I was already, like, in my 20s when Facebook showed up.
I think I got it my sophomore year in college, like
when I was in like junior high school, like the most you got was like the most you did on the internet was like message boards and MySpace and ICQ Messenger.
And MySpace didn't have a board, did it? Like it didn't have like where you could post like pictures and stuff.
No, you could put your own pictures up, but I mean, you had to have a digital camera. You had to take pictures with said digital camera.
It was a lot more work.
It was a lot more work.
I would actually, honestly, if I was if you were to, without any facts, give my opinion, I'd say kids are probably more behaved now than they were 30, 40 years ago.
I mean,
you start getting into like the 60s and 70s, there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
Orgies.
Like, hey, you guys want to go find a dead body?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll fucking poke it with a stick and shit like that.
But first, take these pills. Actually, it wouldn't be pills. What do you put acid on?
I don't know, Shawn.
That's why we're the better generation.
I don't know these things.
But yeah, he's being a crunch.
I don't know that you put it on paper and then put it on the tip of your tongue. And then, anyway.
Why paper?
Continue.
Like, shouldn't it be like a Skittle?
You could.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I'd probably freak out.
You would. I know you would.
Richard, Mel Gibson's coming for me.
He's gonna leave me cold. Number one, you're an adult.
Number two, you're not sugar tits. So he's going into town. He's complaining about that. He goes and gets that letter, and he goes to a bar. And this is where the first, because like we know from the trailer that this guy, Fatman Mel Gibson, that he's playing, we see him shooting in the trailer, right? So like, when I try to dissect the movie as I'm watching, I'm like, well, is he like some kind of like assassin for the U.S. government, or is he like a retired, like special ops type person? Like,
yeah,
I'm expecting
I get what you're saying.
Not
like,
to be.
Is this the Expendables Part 5?
Yeah, exactly. But he ends up going to a bar, and this is where you get the first kind of like this mythos, like this supernatural-esque, I almost said Superman, Santa type thing. Okay. He's at a bar. He hasn't opened the check yet because he doesn't want to see how much it's actually on there. He takes a shot from the bartender, and the bartender's this chick, and she's kind of flirting with this other guy. And so she talks about like, hey, there's some presents under my tree at my house. If you want to come over, you can unwrap a few. And the dude's like, oh, yeah. And she walks away. And Chris Kringle, Mel Gibson's character, slides down and calls the guy by name. I think it was something Miller. And the guy's like, hey, I don't know you. But it's the whole Santa thing. Like, he knows everybody, right?
Okay.
And basically like, hey, how are the kids doing? How's the wife doing?
Oh.
Catching him in like he's about ready to go and unwrap some presents that aren't the presents at his home.
Oh. Well, that's not bad, though. I mean... Like, what if he gets a nice sweater? What if, what if there's
or he gets a new pet crab, or
right?
Crabs.
I mean, why would you want to put a crab in a box?
I mean, it's a crab in a box. Step 1, cut a hole in the box. Step 2, put a crab in the box. Step 3, give it lettuce so it can survive. Step 4. No, but basically he was saving that guy's marriage, because the guy's like backtrack. He's like, no, like I wasn't, like I totally wasn't. And he's like, if you left now in 12 hours, you could be back home and be with your family for the holidays. And he's like, you and I have a sanctity for like vows and marriage, unlike, and I can't remember what the bartender's name was, like Cindy. So Cindy is basically like, just because it's,
that's bullshit. Wait a minute. That's okay. Wait a minute. That's kind of slut shaming there. I feel.
I mean,
well, the bartender doesn't know that he's married.
Yeah, they didn't really say for sure, but they did make mention that, because she came back out and she's like, "Why is it every time that you're in here and I'm talking with somebody, I always go home alone?"
See, that doesn't necessarily. She might not know that these guys are married.
That's true. I guess I took that because like he's been in there enough that he knew that she knew.
I think Santa's slut shaming. That's what I think's going on here. Santa's like, stop being such a whore, Denise.
I get you cold, but you'd probably just fuck it.
Just fucking slamming up your hoo-ha. or whatever the kids call it these days. I don't know.
Have I told you
Facebook?
Have I told you about these goddamn kids? I give them coal and they burn people's houses down.
Sons of bitches.
Sir, this is the Target.
Look here, sugar tits. God damn it.
No, God damn it. But so that's where you see like his first kind of like he's able to know people without actually knowing them. And he gets back home and he's talking with his wife, Ruth, and they realize that the money's not going to be enough. But as he gets home, Richard, this is kind of the B plot of this movie. When he gets home, he realizes that there's basically a government vehicle at his house. And his house, the way it's set up, like it's not like North Pole, like, cheery. It's kind of like an old cabin with like an old shed looking thing.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like in the trailer. It looked like he owned like like you said, like an old cabin, and there's like a barn, and
yeah.
Like an old ranch.
Yeah, like an old like hunting lodge or like fur trapping type setup.
Yeah.
So he walks in, and there's two government officials, and there is a like general, and what they want from him is because he's like, listen, we had a deal. You're supposed to give me X number of dollars, but you've only given me half. And they tell him essentially, it's like, well, we give you what you produce. Because basically, like, it's kind of interesting, really, how they mix this mythos of Santa and kind of like, the money increases that we get during the holidays.
So Santa's a Fed?
He works with the government. And the idea is that, like, Santa Claus basically spurs this economic, spending of money, right? Because it's holidays, it's Santa. He makes stuff still, but it's just the whole Santa idea, the whole Christmas. And it seems like they didn't really dive into this too much, but it seems like there's a lot of kind of his just kind of being like spurs people to celebrate Christmas and buy stuff and do things. And he talked about it here's like Christmas and him and everything does like $2 to $3 trillion worth of economic boost just during Christmas.
Okay.
And
so what you're saying is that Santa is an agent of Jeff Bezos.
Yes. Oh, now, yeah.
Jeff Bezos should be the one paying him, not the fucking government.
It's a good point.
Amazon should be sending him a check, not Uncle Sam.
Well, they're probably trying to cut him out now. It's like, wait, you got all those elves and stuff up there. Cut them loose because they eat a bunch of sugar. And then, I'll just be Santa. Call me Santa Bezos.
Yeah.
Bezos.
Give me that beard.
But so you have all this going on, and they say, like, well, we only give you what you produce. And he's like, I can't help it. Half the kids just deserve coal. And coal, I guess, is still expensive, but they don't give him as much money. But the B plot of this movie is that the government wants to procure his factory to build parts for a new jet. A new like fighter jet.
Okay, this is bordering on ridiculous.
It is kind of ridiculous, but like
sounds quite ridiculous.
This is like
point.
A third of the way in the movie where they like he's already done Christmas, but they don't show like any of the reindeers. They don't show him do anything. He does get shot while he's out. So
who the fuck shoots him?
Well, you don't see it. So like he leaves. Ruth sends him off on his way, and he leaves. You don't see him delivering packages, but you come in and you see him like holding his side. Like, holy shit, what happened? It's like, I think he either got bit or he got shot. And he wakes up the next morning, like I guess some kids shot a couple like shots at him in his sleigh while he was flying.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, first off, you're like, holy shit, that's Santa Claus. Let's shoot him.
Yeah, right? Like I don't think you should have that reaction.
No,
okay. So let's cards on the table here. Okay. If you, Shawn, are standing, let's say you have a firearm in your hand. I don't know, because you're out in the woods or something like that. Okay. So firearm in your hand, and you see a UFO come by. Are you going to shoot the UFO?
No. I mean, and if you see like a sleigh.
Is that because you're afraid you'll start an intergalactic war?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, makes sense. I can agree.
Or anal probing.
That too. Okay, now let's say you are out there in the woods and you see a sleigh pulled by 8 tiny reindeer fly over your head. Are you shooting at that?
No, because you know why? No. Like, could you imagine if that happened? Like, wouldn't Christmas now be your favorite time ever?
Right?
Because you'd be like, wait a second.
And also, like, let's say hypothetically you shot and hit him. Like, now you fucking ruined Christmas for
everybody. Yeah. My first thought would be like, I'd call you and be like, Richard, what was on that Skittle you gave me?
I think I shot Santa Claus.
But yeah, I mean, the only time I think Santa probably.
Sure, it's not Mel Gibson.
Hey, sugar tits, you shot down my plane. No, Mel Gibson.
It's just Mel Gibson. Whew, that was close.
I saved Christmas.
I almost ruined Christmas.
But the only time I think it'd be dangerous for Santa, like if like I heard him rustling around in my house, is if I get up Christmas morning and I see some dude in a red outfit in my house, like I'm probably going to shoot him because, you know, if it is Santa Claus, like you're doing a shitty job, bro.
It could be somebody. It could be Robert Downey Jr.
Was he Santa Claus?
No, but he liked to sleep in other people's houses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Could be.
That was a long time ago. He doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah. Good thing, too, because he probably wouldn't be around anymore.
No.
Where was I going on this? Oh, yeah. So he gets shot. And so when he's seeing the feds and stuff, like he's already healed from that, like really quickly. So that's where, again, it's kind of like sprinkling in this, like, holy shit, like this is some kind of like super powered being type thing.
Yeah.
And so they talk about needing to procure the factory, and he tries a bunch of different things. I'm pretty sure he calls Elon Musk.
Okay.
Because he's talking on the phone, like crossing names off. Because he's basically, what he's trying to do is find somebody that needs factory work and basically kind of like contract out to him. And so the last person he calls is like, hey, Elon, do you have anything for me? But it's, I don't know, maybe this is probably kind of like a moving factories overseas kind of complaint. But he talks about like, oh my God, like everybody's like sending out their factory work. They're not doing it here. Like they all have like, you know, kids that are 6-year-old barefoot working 12-hour shifts, doing all these things. He's like, it's a shame. And so then that's where he has to basically take this government contract, or otherwise the Santa factory is going to go under.
So now the elves are making fighter planes.
They're making like some panels for the fighter jets. And so this is where you
This is getting really depressing, Shawn.
No, like I said, this is like the rated R dark version of Santa that I don't think anybody realized that they wanted. And when you get it, you're kind of like, I'm okay with it, but
it's making me sad.
And it doesn't. Does it end on a good note?
Because I'm sitting here and I'm hearing about like Santa Claus is just a fucking grouchy old man that bitches about kids today, and all the elves are now working for the military industrial complex, and you know, the whole thing is based purely for, you know, economic growth.
Yeah, and it's kind of, and he talks about too, he's like, you know, the thing we screwed up with, Ruth, is we didn't license out my image so they could get royalties. But so he's got to go in and he calls all the, I guess it seems like the elves get like a month or two off. Or at least, because he's like, I'm sorry to have to call you back so soon. But he's like, we're going to have to make some changes around here. You know, we're going to have to basically, he tells them they're going to be making these parts for the U.S. government, for the Department of Defense.
Okay.
And this is the part where it gets a little sad, because you see the elves, and they actually have pointy ears. They're all kind of shorter. And they're not like super cheery. Like they're not like the elf. But they just look like, factory worker kind of people. Like they're you know, in there to build these things, and they're hardworking people. And he turns it over to the, you know, he seems pretty sad about
good
this.
old salt of the earth elves.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody calls them salt of the earth, actually. So the general tells him like, all right, so there's going to be some changes. You can only come in through this. We're going to fingerprint all of you. We've got to cut the bells off your shoes because it's going to set off our metal detectors. And so it's really kind of like these guys are like super excited to build toys and bring happiness and joy.
Yeah.
And these guys like, yeah, we're going to fucking turn all that over.
That's fucking sad.
Yeah. Well,
Why are you telling me this sad story about this sad movie?
The sad part is one of the elves raised their hand. He's like, all right. She's like, so what kind of toys are we making? He's like, oh, you're not making toys. You're making panels for a new blah, blah, blah fighter jet.
No, I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
The cool part, though, is like you see, well, actually, the last real sad part that I have on here is the factory foreman. All the elves are numbered. Okay. Because that's the most efficient way for them to count who's here and everything. So the factory foreman is Elf 7. And the general's like, was like, well, that's like, what happened to 1 through 6? And they're like, oh, well, we had some stuff that happened. And Elf 7's like, yeah, we never re-give out numbers because that would be immoral. It's like, holy shit.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And like they sprinkle in some stuff too with like, they're talking about like when they had like a solid year, like when was the last time things went smooth? And Elf 7 said like, oh, I think like 1910 was the last time we had like a super smooth year. Summer love.
That's sad.
It's not like you're not cheery.
Like, okay, so when it comes to Christmas movies, like you always want, I always felt like, you want something as hokey as it is. You want a movie that like, kind of touches, kind of pulls your heartstrings a little. You want a movie that makes you feel good during the holidays. This, Shawn, does not sound like that movie. This does not sound like the movie that like fills you with hope and joy and like, oh, the Christmas spirit's in me. And,
there's not much Christmas spirit stuff in it. I'm trying to think like, I would watch this as a goof, but I feel like this might be like a January, February time of year to watch. Because I think if you did watch this every year, like right after Thanksgiving, you'd be like, fuck Christmas.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So you're saying this is a movie that you watch like January 4th when the holiday stuff is kind of burned out?
Yeah, like about the time, probably like my birthday would be the perfect time, January 11th. Because at that point when you're like, hey, it's my birthday.
Watch some sad shit. Let's watch this shit. Let's watch it on Shawn's birthday.
Because my birthday is always that time of year. We're like, hey, you guys want to do stuff? They're like, fuck you. Like, we just had New Year's. Like, I'm fucking exhausted.
You had Christmas and New Year's, and now you're like, hey, guys, let's go out and get crazy.
Yeah,
and
one more time. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to start watching this on my birthday every year. Like, yeah, Santa, these kids these days are all assholes.
Yeah, I want to drop myself off an overpass.
Let's see. So they get all this set up, and so that's kind of the B plot, right? And that kind of disappears there because Santa gets enough money because the government's like, you guys run it like a tight ship here. And you find out that elves, just like in all incarnation of elves, they just eat like straight sugar and carbs.
Okay.
And they work 8-hour shifts, I think they said, and they get 20-minute naps in between them. So you see like they're like these superhuman beings as well.
Okay.
So then we cut back to our asshole kid, right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the asshole kid.
Yeah, he's
right now. Everybody sounds like a little bit of an asshole.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, I kind of get it with Santa. Like, yeah, he's an asshole, but like you can kind of like see the road that you can see the road he walked. But like everybody else just sounds like an asshole.
Santa, like Mel Gibson does do a pretty good job portraying in like a Santa that's like, and like it's the cliche of every Santa movie, right? Like people are starting to lose the Christmas spirit. People are starting to lose the love for Santa and the love for everybody. And, it's this guy who's been dealing with that probably for hundreds of years. Yeah. At this point, it's just like, did I fail? Like, is it my fault? Like, we work our asses off for 364 days a year. And then one day.
For what?
Yeah.
Damn ungrateful bastards.
But that kid that we talked about, so obviously Santa knows that he's been a jerk face, so he gets coal for Christmas.
Okay.
And that's where he gets pissed off and he calls back that assassin. The assassin side plot is that he got only like one thing from Santa and he never got what he wanted, which we find out later in the movie was new parents. Because I guess he had really like asshole parents.
Oh, okay.
So this assassin throughout the movie, he's going around and finding these toys and stuff. Like he has a collection of toys from people that got them from Santa. And he gives them like astronomical amounts of money for it, like a baseball bat he paid like $900 for.
Oh, Jesus.
And on the bottom of it says like made in Santa's workshop. So he's got this hatred for Santa already. And the kid's like, I need you to kill Santa. And so he hires this guy to kill Santa Claus.
All right.
Which at the point, like if this was like the first 30 minutes, that's where you'd be like, all right, this is like gone into parody mode. But it did a good job of writing that line of seriousness and parody. Like it did a good job of it.
Yeah. I mean, so far, I mean, like I said at the top of this, I feel like the only way you can play this movie and have it avoid being completely and utterly mocked as dog shit is you got to play it 100% straight.
Yeah, I was worried because if I watched this at home, I could have stopped it and be like, all right, like if it was bad like that.
Yeah.
But at least at the theater, I was worried I was going to get like a third of the way through it and be like, I got to go. Like it's not worth it. But it kept my interest. I watched
Birds of Prey.
Ruined that 3 other people's movie-going experience. But so he hires the guy, and the guy's like, I'm on it. And through some work, he finds out that the U.S. government, the Postal Service, essentially has like this classified procedure, I guess you would call it, where they take those letters that kids send into the mail and send it to his P.O. box in North Peak, Alaska.
Oh, I see. So like it's like so like the postal workers like, oh, this is a Santa letter.
Yeah, and they drop it in this specific bin. But the postal, what do they call the guy who runs or the girl that runs the postal service?
Postmaster General.
So the Postmaster General knows this stuff and sends it to the P.O. box. But so it's like this whole thing, like the U.S. government's in it, the Postal Service is in it. Like Santa's like a thing inside of the U.S. government, essentially.
Okay.
So by, kind of tracking down this assassin, walking through, he figures out where this takes place.
Can I say though, like earlier you were talking about how Santa's like this big boon for the economy, and that's why it sounds like that's why the government like keeps him around.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's given over half the kids coal, like what's he really doing at this point?
Yeah, well, and even at that, like I would assume because there's a boon to the economy, like parents are buying their kids stuff. So if you opened up one gift and it was coal, like would you really care?
That's a good point.
It's like, oh, this one's coal. Okay, cool. Look, a PS5.
I gotta say though, I think if I was a kid and I opened up like gifts and I was like, oh, this is a Nintendo 64. Oh, look, here's this cool thing. Oh, a skateboard. Oh, a lump of coal. Wait a minute. Like I would be genuinely hurt. I'd be like, wait a minute. Like it would sully the other gifts for me.
Oh, I don't think it would. Like I would probably think of it as like a gag.
I don't know if I would. I'd be like, wait a minute. Like I don't deserve any of this stuff.
Well, you still get it though.
It's just that my parents like me.
Well, so this would be like you thinking that Santa was real, or this would be you at the time you think Santa's real.
Okay.
So if you got all those gifts in a lump of coal, you think that would ruin everything else for you?
I mean,
playing your N64.
Shawn, you gotta think, okay? Like this is also coming from the person that like looks at our podcast reviews and is like, all right, which one's the 1 star? Where's the 1 star?
Yeah, that's true. I was trying to think like,
but look at all these 5-star ones. Yeah, those don't fucking matter. Look at this one.
Who's Tiff and E? I don't know, Richard. Seems like a unique name. So the assassin tracks him down, and the assassin, the guy that plays him, is the guy from. Let me see if I can find his specific name. It's Walton Goggins. He was in like Son of Anarchy, Justified, The Shield. Like he's been in a bunch of stuff.
All right.
And he plays the assassin like really well. But again, this is a guy who hates Santa Claus as well. He knows Santa's real because he's going through and buying all this stuff made in Santa's workshop.
Yeah.
So when this kid hires him for this gig, he's like, I'm all in on this.
Yeah, he's like, oh, now it's personal.
Now it's mine. Which I don't know why he didn't do it before if he was really that pissed.
Yeah, like you would think that like just spending your money on buying toys so you could fucking stare at them with an angry face, with an angry mug on.
Although to be fair,
you would think, especially if you know like how to kill people and do it for a living, you just be like, well, why don't I just target take the fixation of all my hatred?
Maybe that was
put my skills to work.
Yeah, maybe that was his retirement plan though. Because I mean, it's the old adage: if you're good at something,
job.
Yeah, if you're good at something, don't do it for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to go through life, and if I get, if somebody pays me to do this, then I'll do it sooner. But if not, I'll just, take my 401 Assassin's K and go to wherever this guy is. He did have a funny phone call in his research to try and figure out like where this Kris Kringle was. He calls like this postal service. He's like, yeah, I need to find an address, like maybe like in the North Pole. And the guy's like, there's nothing at the North Pole. Like, it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, well, like, what's the furthest up? And they're like, Eureka, Alaska. He's like, okay. Can you give me the name of anybody by Kris Kringle? And you just hear a dead phone, like somebody hanging up. And he's like, why the fuck did you hang up on me? I thought that was kind of funny. So,
okay.
Santa Claus's, Kris Kringle's factory is now producing these panels for these F-whatever fighter jets. It's kind of on like a military lockdown. So like coming in and out, they've got like scan badges type things because they're building like classified stuff. Mm-hmm. But the assassin makes his way in, shoots down a couple of the guys, shoots down more, gets down into the factory.
He's killing elves?
He does. I don't remember seeing him kill any elves, but he's killing all the soldiers that are kind of watching over.
Okay.
He gets down there. One of the elves walks out as he's like throwing these like bombs, like these. They're set up on a trigger, but he's tossing bombs down in the factory. Oh. And one of the elves picks it up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what's going on, kid?" And like the elf picks up on it, and like this was kind of cool too because it shows like the elf's ingenuity. Like in like 3 turns, he disassembles the bomb, and then
shit,
yeah, it was cool. And then he runs back in as the assassin shooting at him. So there's a big like shootout going on with all this. Like the soldiers are trying to get back at him, but he's killing all the soldiers. He ends up getting out, killing the general, and then he blows up the factory. And this is when Santa Claus comes out because one of the elves warned him. And he's got like this 1911 pistol, like this old school revolver. And the assassin's got like this. I don't really know if it was like an AR-15 or it was some kind of like machine gun type, like army machine gun.
Okay.
And so then you see the assassin tells him, like, hey, all right, so like you this was the last thing you ever gave me. It was this cop car, and he throws it at him. He's like, you never gave me what I wanted. And Santa's like, well, my power is only so limited. Like, I can't give you new parents. And that's when he gives the line of like, I'm coming for your head, fat man.
Oh, Jesus.
And this is when you get what I'd never thought I wanted in my life, Richard, but I'm glad I got to see it. Santa Claus in a shootout with an assassin.
Oh my God. This sounds very oh fuck. What am I thinking of? Rambo. That Rambo, which was the one where basically it was like Home Alone, where he was like building traps and shit.
Oh, I don't know. I think I've only seen the first one. But I wish you have seen True Grit, because this really felt like an old Western like shootout. Like it wasn't over the top like what's the show you just mentioned, the Expendables? It wasn't like Expendables, but it was more kind of like True Grit, old Western, where it's like pew, pew, hide behind something. Pew, pew.
Yeah, and
so they get to the point where they're basically both on these 2 blocks of wood, like stacks of wood protected from each other. And they get into a little fisticuff, and Santa's winning, but this assassin has a secret knife set up. So he stabs Santa in the back with his this poke knife thing.
Oh, what a dick.
Stabs him twice, and Santa rolls over, is like crawling on his back. The assassin stands up and shoots him with his pistol right in the head. So like, fuck, he just killed Christmas.
Oh,
then you see Miss Ruth Crystal blast him from a long ways away. And
get him, Mrs. Claus.
She did. And he ends up chasing her into the house, and she ends up blowing him away.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Like she's hiding behind the door when he walks in, he's looking, and like it starts shutting because she's standing there. She's got like this big, like, it's almost like a shotgun pistol. And he turns around with his gun down. She's like, I'm sorry. And boom. It was sweet. But Richard, this is where like you think like, oh my God, like Santa's dead. Christmas is over.
Yeah.
But Richard, Santa is immortal, right? At least that's what we find out in this, and he survives.
Oh, I was so worried. So Santa's immortal. So yeah, so fuck this kid. This kid's not going to be able to do shit.
Are you talking about the rich kid?
Yeah, the rich kid's not gonna be able to do shit because Santa's immortal.
Yeah. Guess who pays this kid a visit?
The Highlander.
No.
And he's
Ruth.
like, there can be only one.
Ruth and Chris decide to visit this kid because he was planning on killing his grandma. This kid's got like a dark path that he's going down.
Damn.
So you see him, he goes into his room, he's got milk for his grandma, and he busts up a bunch of fentanyl and pours in it. And at this point, Ruth and Kris Kringle have showed up at his house, and they get brought up, and Santa walks in. And of course, it's like a glass of milk. I'm like, holy shit, is this how he's going to die? He's going to drink this glass of milk and keel over. So Kris Kringle walks up, chugs the glass of milk, and he's like, fentanyl. Yep, that would have done the job. Talking about the kid's grandma.
Oh,
and
damn.
He's got a patch on at this point, Richard. Like, this is where Santa's like, I ain't fucking around with these shitty ass kids anymore. Because he looks him like basically straight in the eyes, like, listen, you know, if your grandma comes to an early grave, or that girl, whatever her name was, he knew it. I didn't. I don't. If she has anything as like a cold that comes from you, I'm going to come back here. And essentially he said that he's going to murder this kid.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, Santa's like, you know what? I've sat on the sidelines for too long, and I'm taking this stuff into my hands. He's like,
Merry Xmas.
there's going to be some fucking holiday spirit.
Yeah.
And if you're not down, bury you in the grave.
This is the start of Xmas from Futurama.
Is that what Xmas
Futurama?
is?
In Futurama, they had Santa Bot, where basically like during Christmas time, everybody had to hide in their house because Santa Bot would like basically like fly around on his robot sled pulled by his robot reindeer and like fucking throw bombs and basically like terrorize the world.
Just like anybody or bad people? Like people who weren't good?
Just like anybody.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems like with this, like he's
they'd be like, Merry Xmas.
No, it seems like what Fat Man's going to do now is Kris Kringle's. He's going to go, and if people are like this kid, like he's going to basically show them what's up, and essentially, I think kill him is what he's going to do.
That's fucked up. Like now, Santa's going to show up and kill bad kids.
I mean, to be fair, this kid was going to kill his grandma.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, bad things should happen to the kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if an old man should fucking show up at his house and shoot him in the face.
Yeah, I mean, how would Santa do it? Like, would he just take him up to the North Pole and leave him, like, freeze to death?
Or do they become an elf?
Oh, that'd be fucking freaky as shit, wouldn't it?
Right?
You just made my scariest, like, basically, like, he enslaves the bad kids.
Yeah. Oh, my God. See, that to me, that doesn't sound as bad as like showing up and shooting him in the face, but that's pretty bad.
Well, I don't know. Like
Santa basically, like, if you're bad, Santa's going to come to your house and fucking kidnap you and take you back to his factory.
Holy
and
shit,
turn
Richard.
you in and put you through fucking terrible mutations and turn you into an elf and then force you to work.
It's like, guess
make
what?
Toys.
You're immortal. 7712. He's like, but my name's Ralph Whack. No, it's not. Merry Christmas.
What is your name?
But no, yeah, like you get up there and like Ruth, Mrs. Kringle, comes in with like a cookie, says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like I know he's been under a lot of stress this year."
She's playing good cop.
Yeah, and you eat that cookie, and that's what changes you into an elf.
Yeah.
You're like, all I want to eat is carbs and sugar. But it does end on a high note, Richard. So the kid hopefully finds his way, but they're rebuilding the factory because the assassin blew up the factory. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yeah. No, because you said he set a bunch of bombs and shit.
Yeah. But when he got out, he did blow it up. So they're rebuilding the factory. Sounds like they still got the money, so they're able to do all that stuff. And like I said, I think Santa's going to try and force more joy on people than what he did before. So all in all, like I said, this movie, I think it did a really good job of riding the line between serious and parody. It sprinkled in some of the mythos of Santa really well.
I feel like the content itself is the parody, but playing it serious made it plausible, I guess.
Yeah, and it was just enough
helped you suspend disbelief.
Yeah, like it's enough that like it made it believable enough. Like the government using the factory. If you have this factory that can build all these toys for all these kids, like yeah, sure, of course they could do just about anything.
Yeah.
And then you put in like, oh yeah, and by the way, they are actually elves, and Santa's this immortal thing.
Are they elves or are they just bad kids that Santa fucking kidnapped?
Oh, you know the other thing we get in this show, Richard, that we don't see in a lot of Santa movies? We get to see Santa get busy with Mrs. Claus.
Oh.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to see that.
He comes back after getting that money. He's like, man, Ruth, I'm sorry about being such an asshole. She's like kissing her. It's like, oh, is that all you want? He's like, nah, come jingle these bells.
Oh.
You don't really see much of it, but you do see fat Mel Gibson like get out of bed, and you kind of see like the top of his butt crack.
That seems grody.
It was a little grody, but I mean, we're all going to get there at some point.
Yeah, but I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't want to think about it. And number two, I feel like when I'm old, then I'm going to be at least tolerant of looking at myself without clothes.
Yeah. I already hate looking at myself. Like, you look like a fat Mel Gibson.
Where's your eye patch, fat man?
Shawn, what are you doing? Nothing, sweet tits. So, in me talking about that, Richard, do you seem more or less excited about this movie?
I don't know. I feel about the same. Although I will say, I just looked, and on Amazon, it's available to rent for $7.
Yeah, that's a bit pricey. That's not bad, because I think it cost me like $5 to see it at the theater.
So you feel like it's not worth $7?
I mean, if like you said, hey, I'm going to watch this tonight, yes. But I wouldn't like in like 6 weeks, you're like, you know, I'm going to watch that movie. I'm like, why don't you wait till it is Prime or on Netflix?
Although you would say that I shouldn't watch it. I shouldn't watch it now because Christmas hasn't happened yet. I should wait until after.
Yeah, I think
because then I'll feel better about the world.
I think like today or tomorrow would be the last 2 days. Sorry. So disbelief people, we're recording this right at the end of November. So I would say like tomorrow, the 30th of November, would be the last day I'd watch it, because Christmas to me, like the real feel of Christmas, doesn't start until December 1st.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree with you.
Because usually, like the day after,
I think we had this discussion. Like, how far before Christmas do you start like saying, okay, it's Christmas season? Like, when does Christmas season officially start for you? And yes, I would agree. Like, it's not it can't happen until at bare minimum December 1st. So
it was, like I said, I want to, whenever it becomes available for like Prime or something like that, or if it's a lot cheaper, I definitely want to watch it again. I told the guys at Game Day we need to watch it for our December Game Day. Okay. Because it does seem fitting for that. Because it's the kind of movie where, like, if you look at it like every 10 to 15 minutes, like something's going to suck you in. You'd be like, oh, wait, like, is that just a normal guy doing something? Wait a minute. Why is he surviving that gunshot? Doing something. Wait, are those actually elves? Doing something. Wait a minute. All right. But yeah, I would say not my favorite movie of all time, but definitely worth a watch.
I'm curious, but I don't know if I'm curious enough to sit down and watch it at this point. We'll see in January.
Yeah, I think January would be a good time to kind of pick that up. Or maybe that might be a good, like I said, maybe if you did like the second or third week of November where you kind of feel Christmassy, but you want to squash that down until the 1st of December, this would probably be good to watch then.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
But as we're bringing this Mel Gibson Santa Claus sleigh to a halt, Richard, what are some Richard's closing thoughts?
I guess Christmas means different things to different people. And for some, it means it's, I will say, like, in talking about this, it does remind me of the, like, feeling that I want for the Christmas season, which is this, like, joyous, hopeful feeling. And so, like, I feel like I'll avoid this right now because this is not how I want to perceive the holiday. As much as my darker instincts like pull me in that direction, I feel like Christmas is about resisting your darker instincts.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't even tempt this and then watch like Christmas Chronicles as like a palate cleanser. Like I do think like this is like an early November, January-ish time frame to watch this movie. Because yeah, it's a good point. If you watch this like the day before Christmas, it can definitely kind of probably be like, oh, I'm gonna watch Christmas Chronicles. And you're like, it's not the same because Mel Gibson is Santa in a universe.
You fucking ruined it.
All right. Well,
first Jesus, now this.
All right. Well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping before Santa comes in and threatens my life. Visit our website, languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And we always want to thank our patrons, Wendy and Aaron. If anybody else...
never have coal in your stocking.
No, never. And if anybody else wants to join our Patreon account, you can always go to patreon.com/languageofbromance. I don't think we have where you can pay for a year, but we'll have to look into that as an option as well.
Definitely.
Patreon gives you a way where if you want to pay for a certain level for a year, you get a discount.
No, I like that.
All right. Well, is there anything else, Richard, before I close her out?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, that's all the bromance we have for this holiday season show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And remember, don't be a why.
Be a why not. Merry Christmas, sugar tits.
Perfect.